Hello. Here we are again. Who knows what day this is at this point? Gosh, it's great. Um, I'm thinking about, reviewing this stuff years from now and seeing who I am today versus who I'm going to be in 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 years. If YouTube is still around 30 years from now, who knows? I think that'll be a fascinating thing to see. That's the magic of the technology we have right now, making records of things and seeing what it's going to look like in the future. Maybe, who knows? It's infinite, man. It's infinite. The options are amazing. But here we are today, in the present, not worrying about the future too much. Although times are becoming pretty challenging right now. Yeah, I hear a lot of things about layoffs, and there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the United States. Who knows about the rest of the world? I don't know. I'm sure somebody does. But things are changing. Time is changing. That's just the nature of it. Everything changes. Sometimes there's good times, sometimes there's not so good times. And that's going to be the cycle forever. That is not going to change, for sure. Um, Plenty other things, but change is the constant in life. Always liked that. It makes it fun, it keeps it interesting. There's good times and bad times and other challenges that are happening. And sometimes there is wealth, sometimes there isn't wealth. Sometimes things go well, sometimes they don't. But the thing we can the thing we can control is our attitude. Our attitude in life is very important. And the attitude is what can bring us through the challenging times. Because things will get tough in life. That is the reality. Things will get tough. Um, and then they'll get easy, and then they'll get tough again. Sometimes they get easy, sometimes they don't. I've noticed as you get older, it just becomes a little bit more challenging every day. But that's that's the nature of things, right? So, what do we do about our attitude of life? Our attitude has to be practiced. Like almost everything that I discuss, I like to talk about, it is all practice. Being happy is not something that you achieve, it's something that you practice. And wealth, like material wealth, is a very poor measuring stick of anything. There are people who are not very smart that are very wealthy. There are people that are very wealthy or very smart that aren't very wealthy. So I don't look at material success as a measurement of success, uh, or of happiness. I've seen a lot of gamblers who somehow came into a lot of money and they're not very happy. And I've seen people who are broke, who are very happy, and they're practicing different skills, right? The practice and training of our minds. The mind is the real ruler of the body. And we find that however our mind thinks the world is going, and however the mind thinks that our reality is going, it will enhance that experience. It may not always change it, but it will enhance that experience. So if you think things are going well, even though you're in a situation that's particularly challenging, you will find that your mind is going to work towards making it easier to tolerate whatever situation that is. But if things are going well and your mind is against you saying things are not going well, then you're adding in extra layers of burden upon yourself. All right. I think we've all had that at some point or other where our mind is telling us, oh, you're not good enough, or oh, you're not this or that, or you don't like doing this. And that's the mind. The mind is doing that. The mind is not um, we can control that. But it takes practice to control that. And that's where we have to either write ourselves a lot of sticky notes everywhere, or do something, have something around us, maybe surround ourselves with people that are more towards the qualities that we're interested in, whatever those qualities happen to be, to help encourage us to become that thing that we want to become. So if it is more, if it is happier, or if it is more confident, or if it is whatever the goal is, if you want to become a big muscle bodybuilder, you can see with my computer arms here, super strong. Uh, but you should hang out with more people who are experienced bodybuilders. And if you want to have more like self encouragement, hang out with people who also resemble those traits. Hanging out with people who are opposite of that, who are dragging things down, or who are just not looking at the more positive sides of life, watching the news, watching anything on the internet, all gonna make it really challenging. The internet, I think, is one of our biggest challenges as people to stay confident with ourselves, because it's such a powerful force that you can't fight back against. Uh, the it's a machine. It really is. Um, but yeah, that's I always think that it is practice, practicing our experience of life, and practicing being being what we want to be. Do every day doing something to get us closer to that thing that we want to become. And this is mostly a mental game. The mind is the source of it. The mind will encourage us to do. It will encourage us or discourage us. I often view the mind as a tool, like a hammer, and the tool doesn't really care what it does. Like your mind doesn't really care how it acts. If you teach it to function in a certain way, it's going to function in that certain way. Uh, it doesn't really have an opinion. Now, you, the individual behind the mind, like behind that layer of thinking, um, may get disturbed based on how your mind is acting, or you may like how your mind is acting. But the mind isn't. I think that the mind is indifferent. I think it's more of a tool than it is who we are as a person. Um, Now that's a very deep, fun discussion to have at another point here. Like, where is the person? Is the person in the mind, or is the person behind the mind, seeing the things that is happening? We often like to think of like when we're trying to identify who we are, like we're saying, who am I? It's like, well, I like chocolate, and I like coffee, and I like going out, and I like having fun, which is a very generic way to describe anyone, by the way. Everybody has very similar tastes when it comes to that. Oh, I like having fun. Yeah, yeah, you and everyone on the planet. um or I like doing things that are fun. Yeah, who doesn't? I like laughing. Come on now. How unique. But likes, I don't think, are part of who we are, or is very important about who we are. When we're talking about who am I, looking much deeper down into the self and figuring out who that is, I don't think it has much to do with our relationships with the material world, because we've noticed that as we've grown up and changed over the years, our relationship to the world has changed. I was very much a fan of Kit Kats when I was a youngster, and I mean, where did the time go? Um, and eating plenty of candy and going to the toy store and things like that. Uh, that was a big part of my identity, and that's who I was, or who I would say I was. Like, oh, I love candy and this and that, but then all that changes and goes away, and so that old part of Ed is dead, is gone. Um, and that happens, with us throughout all our ages. The things that we like today are not going to be the things that we like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and God knows 20 years from now what our opinions are going to be of things. But that's just the nature of it. It's the nature of change, which is why I don't like to identify ourselves with things that we like or dislike. Everything changes about the body, about the mind, the self changes a lot. But the real us, the real personality underneath the self, um, behind this changing storm of likes and dislikes and preferences, all sorts of things, is simply watching. Um, the one thing that has been consistent throughout our lives is the awareness that we're alive. It's not the things that we like. The things that we like often change. It's not our surroundings. Everything changes about life. It will become very different as time goes on. But we're all aware that we are witnessing something occurring. We're witnessing a change. We're witnessing experience and sound, taste, touch, temperatures, all sorts of things we're witnessing. And then when I like to talk about, who are we? Who is witnessing these? Um, you know, who is watching all of this stuff occur, watching the change of our own bodies, of our own minds, of our thoughts, of our preferences, of the world, everything around us. Who is witnessing it all happening? And that starts to ask the question of who am I? But this conversation goes on for a long time. I always like it. This is the stuff that I really enjoy and live for. Is conversations about the self and, what is the purpose of this life? Of, how do we get down and really figure out what we're doing here? That's a fun journey. Sometimes it's short, sometimes it's long, but it's that. Anyway, that's what we have for today. All right. Until tomorrow. We'll see you there.